I'm going to go ahead and roll because we have 25 minutes and I'm hoping there might be some time for a little bit of conversation at the end. How many of you in here already do like test and production now? Awesome, because I want to hear how you guys are doing. I was really hoping I could find somebody else to do this with me and we could have two different viewpoints on it. I'm going to present a few different things. My name is Lori Millikan. I'm a data geek in the School of Medicine. I work with a bunch of child abuse pediatricians, and we do a lot of our foster care British clinic data through REDCap. So big list of what we'll cover. Hopefully we will get to all of that. A little bit about change management. Do you even need a test environment? Overview of what REDCap already offers and some other tools we use, some real life examples, so forth. Okay, so change management is tracking and controlling changes to the code, a little bit of a buzzword. You want to track all of your changes, why you have the changes, how you tested the changes, and how to make the changes. It's up to you, right? REDCap offers lots of tools, and we'll look at some of them. I personally am a proponent of doing change management for everything, pretty much, but I don't maintain a test environment for everything. I actually have both test and production for some things and production on little things like, I'm doing a survey about a conference. We're all going to get surveys about this, right? I'm not going to have a test system for that if I were going to survey. Okay, so do you need a test environment? Here are some of the things I think matter. Is it a small or large project? I gave you that example of a quick survey about a meeting. That's a small project. Do you really need it? Is it something that doesn't change much? We have one database, one project that is, we have a bunch of pediatricians around the state, the doxing case, who have to report in about all the communications they have with the Department of Children's Services. And it's a pretty large project, but it never changes. There's like 8 things. Tell us who called, why they called, what she said about it. And it doesn't really change. So we do have a test one on that, but I don't have a big complex turnover process. If you have a lot of staff turnover, there's an argument for having a test system. It's a great place to do your training. It's a great place to experiment, and you have a lot of moving parts. Our bridge clinic, the big one, the one that I kind of will look at a couple of times, has a lot of moving parts. As I'm sure many of your projects do, we have lots of different forms and surveys. We also have lots of repeating instances. And we use a lot of alerts and notifications, and we use Power Apps to help move those, Outlook rules and Power Apps to help move those things like directly to SharePoint and do some of the stuff that people would have been doing. And so we're definitely going to test all of that. So many moving parts. Okay. So here's kind of a little list of some of the things that REDCap offers you in order to do your change management. We're going to look at each one of them here. So I'm not going to kind of go through this list right now. Actually, no, I will. Data dictionary. We're not going to look at that one, I don't think. But as Dr. Duda mentioned earlier, and I think most of you know, if you're maintaining both already, that's one great tool for helping you back and forth between test and production. Okay. And so here are 3 really good ways to do it using REDCap tools alone. First of all, have no test environment. Don't manage both. Just have one. We've already kind of mentioned there are lots of good situations where you don't need them. The second one, create a copy only at the time of change. So you kind of only have test for a minute. For a minute might be 4 months, depending on how long your change is, right? But you might just have test at the time you're testing, and then that becomes your production system, or you do some one-time little communication between the two. And we'll look at that in a minute. And then another option is to actually maintain 2 projects, test and production. And that's what we do. And we put test label in test one, which has a downside, I will say. So let's let's talk about making changes directly to production with draft mode. So any of you, since you're making both, you know it's already there. You can enter draft mode and make your changes directly there. I don't like this. I think it's a great tool, except for you can't really undo. You can undo before you commit, but not after. I have this list of changes. Here's these 50 things we're putting in, and I've gone down my list. I've done all the things, I committed them, and then I realized, oh, I forgot to make sure my list of 50 things that I remember moving in, whatever went with each one of them. And I discovered, oh, I left the one little thing off. And then there's Alexander and Nancy and whoever getting an immediate, oh, I need another go live real quick. I need another approval to get it in because I had to go back. You can go back versions, but you need to know which version. And so I'm gonna go over here. You know, we've got this project revision history. So these are all the times our bridge clinic has done an upgrade, has done something we've done 25 times. I don't know which one of these is which if I'm just using REDCap's tools. I do have a thing I haven't actually sent through, but I'm going to ask them about putting out like maybe another column on this that we could just write in our own little, you know, some little English language that would make it helpful for us to know which one goes with which. Okay. It's hard to test. If you're just doing this straight to production, how do you test that? Is there anybody in here who does that? And how do you test it? Like, I don't know how. I think you really can't. I think you just have to move it in and then see if it works. But some changes don't require draft. Okay, your changes to alerts, reports, dashboards, survey settings, other ASIs, data quality rules. There are a lot of things out there that you don't have to go into the draft mode to do. So is that good or is that bad? I contend that's maybe bad because you want all to be in sync together. But on other times, it's really nice and easy. So I can do it real quick. If someone says, I just need to add a person receiving this alert, I kind of want to just give them that rather than go through a big production turnover. The second method where you have a copy just at the time of you're going into production, you're copying as a staging area, right? So you're going to use this copy the project and here, and so under other functionality, you've got your copy the project, and you can choose what all you're going to copy, and it'll make a copy out there for you. When you go back into your projects, and now you've got one with or without data, whichever made sense to you, that you can play with. And it may totally make sense for you to play with real data. Like that, I like playing with fake data. Depends on what the kind of change you're making is. We have a lot of complex data, and so having production data to test with could be helpful because it's already built as complex, but I feel like the risks are high. You know, security, I'm always trying not to do that. So we just have built a really complex set of, robust set of test data when we look at the third option in our test system and know that it has it there. But if you don't have that, you can definitely copy your production as your starting place. It's a good starting place. You know it matches what you have in real life right now. Do nice testing. And I've shown one way right here. You actually can do it back and forth. You can do it in multiple orders. One way is you move the copy to production and then delete, without the data, and then import your old production data into this new project after you've tested it, right? Or you can do it in the other order. I mean, this really is a thing. You can do it in multiple orders. And I'm kind of going through this quickly because we only have 25 minutes. That one, I know I just glossed through. Do I need to repeat any of that part? I saw a lot of people who were already doing this, so I feel like maybe get it.
And there was a comment.
Yes.
In chat, Angela says that she only makes simple changes in draft mode in active projects, but that those changes, no changes don't affect data. When you ask her question, what do people do?
Super, thank you. Thank you. Good to know that, Angela, thanks. So yeah, so I'll do one quick repeat on this in case someone just didn't want to raise their hand and say it. So you've got your production copy, right? You can now make a copy of it without data or with, whichever you want to do your testing with. But then when you're ready to move it to production, if you have fake data in there, you need to get rid of that fake data before you call it production. And then you go back and delete your old production one, by after you've moved in using a data upload, data import, moving your data in. And this works. This works great. And if that's what you want to do, I say do it. It's not the way I do it. And then one of the big downsides for me about that is survey links. When you are changing projects, the link is tied to that survey. And I actually just use the link that REDCap makes. I don't ever use the little, you can kind of make it something more meaningful. And I don't know, does anyone know in here, if you make it more meaningful in one project and you get rid of that project, can you make that same more meaningful one? And I see a shaking head. So the answer is no. Someone has experienced this. Yeah, so that for me is one downside. All of our data, our initial data comes in through the Department of Children's Services. They send through a referral. I don't want to keep sending them new links. That's a government agency who has a lot of turnover. We do not need to have them confused about what link to be using. So another reason I don't use that one, but that definitely is an option. And then we have my little hearts here, because this is the one I use. My two little best friends, test and prod forever. It has all the benefits of doing that copying. Plus you have these robust test cases. And every time we do a big upgrade, we're in the middle of one right now. We're hoping to go live at the end of the month. I get a whole lot of little test buddies out there helping create new data. So we've got data at all the different stages, like we create new referrals versus very robust, and has had lots of interactions with our staff. It is a good training ground, and you can work on future changes at the same time as the current changes. So I kind of like that as well. There are some downsides. Future changes can be worked on at the same time as current changes. That one's a pro and a con, because are you certain that the thing you're working on for the future isn't making your test be good now, but it won't be good when you go into production? Generally, I'm not working. The things I have going for a year ahead of now are just a couple little test forms. Things aren't really going to affect anything, but it could be a downside. And the other downside is there is a separate test link and production link. And so this may go live I have coming. We've got some DCS folks who are going to help do the testing, and we have to send them the test link. And I know for a fact somebody's going to get confused and try to send through a real referral after we go live on the test version. And for that reason, it says test all over it. And that's great, except for if you're trying to just upload your data dictionary from test into production, you've got some form names that have test all over and some things. So I have the things that are surveys for the public. They're the only ones that I actually do the test naming. Ones where that risk that they might put real data in our test system by accident. It's annoying to have to change those on the data dictionary before you move it from test to production. And then there are a bunch of other things in REDCap that we use. We definitely upload and download data quality rules, moving them from side to side. Alerts, I'm gonna have to tell you, we use a lot of alerts. We have 20 some alerts. We do lots of cool things with them. Love the notifications alerts. It's probably my favorite feature within REDCap. I have never been successful uploading the alerts, not once. And I don't know if it's me. I've never even gone to ask the REDCap people about it, because it's always a Saturday or something when I'm doing it and I don't want to bug them. And then it's on a list of, I'll ask them someday. So I assume it works and that it's me, but I don't know. And then also you've got logging. So you can see, you can choose the filter by event, manage design, you do for yourself, your own thing, whatever. And unfortunately, the logging doesn't tell you what you changed though. It's so, as much as this logging feature is so awesome, and I use it a lot. I use logging for all sorts of, I don't know how many times somebody on the team will come and say, oh, I screwed something up. Oh, well, that's great. We can figure out what, that'll be easy. Not easy to do that here. Yes, there's a question in the audience.
Can you tell me where those upload?
Yes. So the question was, where are the upload and download alert buttons? Okay, so I'm in my production system here, so I'm gonna be real careful to only go to good places, but it's in the alerts and notifications. So when you go here, and these are a bunch of our alerts, you can upload or download alerts right here. And so I've actually downloaded the alerts to the CSV, like from the test system, and then changed a few little things that maybe said test, and then went to re-upload them into using the upload alerts over in the production system. And I get the failure, but I really think that it can't have been here all this long.
It works for me.
Yeah, oh, awesome. There's the persons, and for those of you in Zoom land, some of the audience said it works for them, so I definitely am doing something wrong when it happens. But the good news is my alerts, those of you who use alerts, if you want to be fancy, you gotta do a lot of HTML stuff. And so I actually just copy the source code from, from test over into production when we've changed the look and feel of an alert. So REDCap just gives you tons and tons of ways to move between the projects when you maintain test and production. And then, of course, this one's mine. Start with a separate test system. So this is our foster care bridge clinic model. We do have the two different ones. And you can see, look at this. Our test system has 186 records. It's pretty decent compared to production. It's like a good 4 or something, our production size. So it's got a lot of robust stuff, and it's all fake people, except for every now and then when a person who would help me test used the wrong one and they put a production into test, then we quickly either delete it or we run and change names and stuff real quick. But we add 2 more documents when we have our stuff we do outside of REDCap. We have a turnover document and a list of production moves. Okay, if we think back to this thing, I'm going to go back over to project revision history, where I want the English to go with each of these. One of our documents is telling us what is the English for that. The English is more easily understood. We have a nice how-to on Go Live Day. This Go Live we have coming up in May. We're changing about 30 different pieces. Some are alerts, some are forms, some are surveys and so forth. So it's a nice little how-to to keep track of making sure that we've done all the steps. And if you need to, you can incorporate some project management stuff, like do this history thing. One of our things was we have as many instances as you need on one of these forms, but the alert that comes out only showed you 5 instances. And we wanted to change it to go up to 10 instances. And so we needed to go and recreate those reports because we had real people who needed more than the 5 that were set up. And once they were in place, then we could produce it. So let's look at some actual turnover documents. I actually have I put it on USB right here. I have a folder that is just all of our moves. And I'm going to use 3.0. We're on 5.4 is the one we're working on right now, but I'm going to use 3.0 as my example. We implemented our book. And so our turnover document looks like this. Lists what it is, when it's happening, what kinds of things are there. And this one says, see this other document for a full list of changes. Sometimes I put the full list of changes within this document itself. On this particular Go Live, I did not. And then there's some things you can do in advance, getting your data dictionary ready to move from test to production. You can do that in advance if you're ready to go, if you're going on. And we have several different projects on this one. So we had instruments in this project and instruments in this project. And then we had places we also do in our document, we actually just do some screen prints of flags you want to change. Don't forget, you need to change this little flag. Run Google H, do these different things, right? Run some before and after stats to make sure nothing changed. We had some repeating instruments we were adding, so go do the things with that. Here's my alerts and notifications where it could say download and upload. And mine says, oh, copy the source, copy the source, copy the source. Like language management things, because we use that module. Do some reports things, some dashboard things, just all the things. And then we actually incorporate all the things that aren't just in REDCap. So we have a group email and we needed to update and add some new Outlook rules to go with automated messages going in there. Yes, there's a question. Oh, 5 minutes. Okay, thank you. Okay, so that's kind of what our turnover document does. It's a map for what to do on the day you go live. And then our list of production moves does look just like that example right there. Oh, what just happened? I'll bring up all of our different versions that we've had in our big foster care set of projects, when they happened, and kind of some English to go with why it happened. Okay. And when it's done, test and production differences do remain. Talk about the test language, alerts, recipients, timeframes. Obviously on test, your alerts, you might set them up to go 10 minutes, 1 day, that kind of a thing. You don't need to wait 2 weeks or a month or whatever your real timing is. Yeah, and reports and project dashboards, some of the things that just look at data. We've chosen not to make that the same between test and production. People can create the reports they need to create. They don't have to create them on test first. Those differences remain. And then, and so we have 3 minutes left. When I tested this, we had 3 minutes left. That's exciting because I'm really trying to get this in the 25 minutes. I know I rushed. I want to hear if there are people out here. A lot of you raised your hand when you said you do both right now. Do you do some version that wasn't represented here? I want to hear that one. Yes, we have some there.
I would say.
Wait.
I in that intermediate stage where I'm not trying to be like artisanally creating each project one by one, but I'm also not doing them in mass either. So I would almost pair one test environment to multiple pods. So it's sort of like a templating system. The template has to evolve because the games tend to change, but even like the core tones are the same.
That's a really good example. Thank you for that. Yeah, and actually, I didn't even think about that. We do that same sort of thing for small ones. Yeah, I like that.
We do something very similar, but we work with interviewers, so we'll always have a third project. That's just where I put the interviewers with like specific test cases for them. And that one looks very, very similar to production because we need them to look on it, to like work on it and know exactly what they're doing. Where like development is where my team mess around. So it will look very different from production.
I like that. So it's like a training ground. Yeah, that's good. And then you have to create like when they're doing their training, do they end up changing the data so that you have to kind of create new data for them? No, they just have to find it. Okay.
And online, Lisa says that she usually uses draft mode for small changes, makes a copy for big changes and testing, and she downloads the data dictionary from the copy and upload to the production version. So she doesn't have to send out a link each time.
Yep.
And she also has issues with uploading alerts. And our good friend Andy Aronson says if anyone would like the IU REDCap team to use their problems of uploading alerts as an example that we can take to the Vanderbilt team and ask for a fix, please send an email to redcap.IU.
I will totally do that, Andy. We have a user over here. I can't see your name. Shannon. Shannon is successful at it. So it's definitely me and not her, I think.
Are there any more questions online or?
Yeah.
Okay. We have one here.
Well, I was wondering too, because sometimes you give people the database and tests to be able to run through. But what about when you put them in, like you just go ahead and set like an expire date? That way they have like,
Oh,
I don't know if that would be helpful or like, because it does happen.
Yeah, that's a
So-
great point. I didn't point that out at all. So most of the times where I have people that's, on the outside helping test, they are testing just a form that we're, a survey that we have to the outside, so I don't have to give them REDCap access. But we do sometimes get, especially like right now, we're gonna, be updating some things in multi-language management, and I'm not bilingual, but I can usually find somebody who is, or I can hire, translation services to help with that. And I do give them with an expiration date. That's exactly right, Shannon. Thank you. Yeah, say, come in here and I'll let you just do the typing for me on these things that you're translating in test. And then of course it copies over. I don't have to redo it.
So can we give Lori a big hand for her presentation?